We're in this new world and we can't go back to the world that existed before. So the question is, how will society adapt to these changes? And this is something which, if you're a student, this is a question that's going to get answered over your lifetime. And yes, I believe it's your entire lifetime that it's going to take for society to figure out how to adapt to these changes. Because if you look at the past changes brought on by major steps in information technology, it's taken a long time for them to play out. The changes brought on by the printing press, for example, are arguably still happening. The printing press, for example, allowed the mass printing of Bibles, which was one of the things that enabled the Protestant Reformation, based on its idea that everyone should study the Bible themselves. Protestant Reformation leads to religious wars. That leads to the modern notion of separation of church and state and much of the political structure of the Western world. Similarly, the printing press allowed the printing of scientific journals, which was one of the key enablers for the growth of modern science and the scientific revolution and the technology revolution that has changed the world going forward. And the implications of that are still playing out. We're still fighting about the role that science should have in our philosophy and in the way we structure our world. So when I say that the implications of information abundance will be played out over your lifetime if you're a student, that's actually optimistic. It might take longer than that. But nonetheless, we're faced with this question of how will society adapt? And it's really your generation, the first generation that has grown up in a world of information abundance. The first generation to whom that's native, for whom the idea that you can't get that information because the place where it's located is closed, something that was routine in my childhood, is something that you guys are really not that used to. Information is by default available, and huge amounts of information exist. We're living in a unique time where we're going through this social transition, and it's really up to you to figure out how to do this, to set the path that society is going to follow. It's up to all of you and all of us to figure out how we can live in a world of information abundance and yet keep the sphere of privacy and the private lives that we're used to having. That's a big job, and we need to get on it right away, so let's get to work.